This Halloween, the streets have been set ablaze. The citizens of the world scream in horror. Chaos and corruption reign supreme as one man stands at the top amidst the turmoil he created, the Shadow Man of the Earth. I am Calypso, and I welcome you to my Twisted Metal competition. Will you survive? You're tuning in to the J-Blast Network. Oh yeah, welcome to the next level. After Twisted Metal 1 released and changed vehicular combat games forever, there was a huge demand for more games in the Twisted Metal style, but none was doing it like Twisted Metal. And so Single Track, the developer of Twisted Metal, would come back to make a sequel, already brainstorming ideas before the first game even released. These ideas led to a bigger setting, expanding out of the doomed streets of Los Angeles and into the entire world, turning the different people, cultures, and landmarks into victims of the slaughter of the Twisted Metal competition. No one was safe, not the racers, not the audience, and not even the kids who would be addicted to the vehicular carnage that would ensue. But what demonic magic would be used to make this game's destruction resonate with players across the globe? And what secrets is Calypso, and the victims, contenders, hiding behind the mass bloodshed and scrap metal of this hellish vehicle action? That's where I come in. Hi, my name is Jay, and you're tuning in to the J-Blast Network as we take a deep dive again this Halloween in this hellish world that is Twisted Metal 2. Twisted Metal 2, just like the first game, continues to be a vehicular combat game. Controls were more refined, with now having the ability to turn in any direction on a dime, giving you more control over your vehicle. Cars in Twisted Metal control differently from other racing games. The game is meant to be like a fighting game with cars, as the cars represents the characters, and once you come to understand that, movement will become second nature to you, as now you're not thinking of it as a car, but as a character you can move. This is the most important thing to understanding the new mechanics added in Twisted Metal 2, that being the command inputs. Much like fighting game, Twisted Metal adds command inputs, which was something unheard of and crazy for a game where you control vehicles. Even the devs didn't know if it would work, but surprisingly it does, and it feels natural. The inputs themselves are pretty simple, and it's universal, meaning every racer has them. They use up a special meter, and they can be easily inputted when driving forward without messing with your control. For the moves, you have a freeze blast, a fire blast, landmines, invisibility, a jump, and a temporary shield. Being honest here, I only use the freeze blast and shield mostly, since the freeze blast freezes your opponents and the shield will save your ass in tight situations. But the other moves will come in handy at certain parts of the game. You just have to find out when. Learning all these inputs is essential for surviving, because Twisted Metal 2 is one of the hardest games out there, and it forces you to use and master its mechanics to beat the game. There's also weapon pickups such as missiles and bombs, which give you more attacks to use while you're waiting on your special move to charge. That's another thing, everyone has their own special move, which is unique to each character. Characters are very important in and outside gameplay, so let's discuss them. Twisted Metal 2 has some, let's say, twisted characters. The series is known for its lore, since everyone has some crazy backstory or ending that has left fans questioning what happened for years. But none are as crazy or as wicked as the tournament organizer himself, Calypso, always scheming from behind his blimp, planning the next hellish idea he has for the Earth.
My name is Calypso. Exactly 1 year ago on Christmas Eve, my Twisted Metal contest destroyed the City of Angels. Down below, life has come to a halt as survivors struggle to stay alive.
Calypso! Calypso, what have you done? What have you done?
With the city awash in flame, nothing left to destroy. I face a dilemma. Where will this year's Twisted Metal contest take place? 14 of the world's best combat drivers have already been chosen, ready to battle to the death in hopes of becoming the victor and claiming whatever prize their brave hearts desire. But where will the contest be held? Oh, the world will be my battleground. Paris, Hong Kong, even Antarctica. There will be no safe zones this year, no places to hide. In the next 24 hours, the entire world will know my name. They will see my beautiful work of art firsthand. No one will be safe. I promise you that. Good luck, driver. Welcome to Twisted Metal.
You see, Calypso, having died in a tragic accident, was sent to hell and was chased by a demon named Minion. But he eventually lost him. Satan, seeing all this, was impressed and gave Calypso a drink, which turned him into the man that he is today, serving the devil's biddings to bring hell on earth and bring more souls to hell. He's the most evil man on the planet, and it seems like no one can oppose him, except maybe our contestants. Let's start with Roadkill, for instance. He's seen as this crazed man for questioning if his reality is real or not. He's one of the more balanced cards in the game with a good amount of health and boomerang that can do a decent amount of damage. Twister, the Formula 1 racing femme fatale who only has speed on the mind. Speeding in her race car, she twists up tornadoes to ensnare opponents, making them remember this ain't Kansas no more. Outlaw 2, the sister of the original Outlaw, seeks revenge on Calypso for sending her brother into space. Her cop car is decked with an electric shocker, lighting up her opponents. Warthog, the senile, militarized maniac, fights to regain his youth, obliterating his opponents with his firepower. Mr. Grimm, the frightening face of death, eager for twisted metal so he can feast on the souls of man. Though he rides a small bike, Mr. Grimm packs a huge punch, sending his opponents to hell with his Skeletor blast. Hammerhead, the giant monster truck, is driven by the two hillbilly idiots, Mike and Stu. Though they lack common sense, that doesn't mean their ability to kill is lacking, brutally running over and crushing opponents without a single thought. Dumper, the flaming Impala, scorches his opponents in the heat of his flamethrower, fitting for its driver, Bruce Coachrains, who aims to take over the world with his car alone. Spectre, the supercar of the man who wants to be known by the world, Ken Masters? Wrong game. Anyway, Spectre, for all of its spectacle, is one of the weaker cars in the game, barely doing any damage, but at least it's fast and it looks cool. Axel, the prisoner of his own vehicle, serving as the axle of two giant tires. With the cannons on his sides, this once noble man seeks the power to confront the one who put him in this hellish contraption. Though in pain as he fights, Axel is actually one of the better characters in the game and is my personal main. The mysterious Shadow, helmed by the man who walks between the dead and the living, Mortimer, seeking revenge on behalf of the souls who lost their lives and bodies in the first Twisted Metal tournament. He aims to take down Calypso once and for all. Mr. Slam, this shit-eating disposable construction worker, aiming to build the one thing his stupid, simple mind can think of, building a tall tower. What a lame dream, and what a dumbass character, only being touched by guys who are cement-eating, garbage-disposing heathens. Mr. Slam goes around in that shitty bulldozer, stealing all the kills at the last minute because his slow ass can't catch anybody normally, grabbing and slamming opponents like the meathead he is. Mr. Slam. Grasshopper, aka Krista Sparks, is the girl seeking answers about her missing father. Apparently, he's connected to the Twisted Metal tournament. I wonder who that could be. She's just as deadly as the rest, hopping around and aiming straight into her opponent, obliterating them in one burst, taking a leap of fate to a new level. And last but not least is the classic, the mascot of the series, Sweet... Wait, where is he? Oh, there he is. You gotta enter a cheat code for him. Sweet Tooth, my GOAT, returns to cause more damage and chaos again, returning in his clown van and shooting everything he can with his funny missiles. There is no escape from Sweet Tooth. Twisted Metal again was inspired from fighting games, and as such, they wanted to add a story which many fighters at the time was implementing. The cool thing about Twisted Metal though is that they learned from them and added the full story in the game. Character bios in the game tell you the story of the characters, which is cool to know without looking up a Wikipedia page to find out what their motivations are. Some descriptions even hint at the endings that the characters have. Sadly, they didn't apply that to the move list, as you have to look it up or have the manual for that. but at least they got one thing right. Since we are going around the world this time, the variety and environments has changed and varied. We start out in Los Angeles, well, what's remaining of it from the last Twisted Metal, a post-apocalyptic wasteland perfect for vehicular combat. It's a perfect level for teaching you the basics of the game, like looping around to save on health, and plenty of open space and items to pick up. Moscow, the Suicide Slide, is the complete opposite of that, taking place in a circular stadium pushing for constant confrontation and barely any health pickups, making you hope your opponents start committing suicide themselves. But if you know this game, the AI is always and only really attacking you, so that prayer would never be answered. You can also destroy the ramps around the arena, destroying all the safe areas in the level. Now that's brutal. Paris, the city of love, becomes the city of death and destruction as you mow down newlywed couples on the streets. Paris' big gimmick is the Eiffel Tower, which you can go in and destroy with the remote bombs, giving access to the rooftops above. I love this level for all of its paths, as it opens the opportunity for some crazy takedowns. Amazonia, the Firewalk, is a giant temple submerged in lava. The lava won't kill you instantly, but you will take damage, and while there is a lot of land, it's very easy to fall into the lava. Busting up temple walls and missiles reveal more items and teleports that can take you to other parts of the map. This is very useful for the next opponent. Last year's boss rises from the lava.
I must win, Calypso, and I have a score to settle,
he yells as he comes after you with a vengeance. Minion was a champion of the last Twisted Metal who was defeated and now wants to kill Calypso. He can be very hard to take down if you just rush him, as the special is shooting nearly every weapon in the game at once. It's best to run drop mines and throw your shield up as you shoot your special. This deadly demon will soon go down and return to hell from whence he came, leading us back to America. New York is the real difficulty spike of the game, as if you're only playing on easy, you can't even get access to this level at this point. I miss when games did stupid stuff like this, but it is still kind of annoying. But the reason why this level is very hard is because this level is very easy to die on, considering you can fall off the freaking map. Thanks to the buildings, there's a lot of elevation, so learning how to control that is key to success here. There are even some secret areas that lead to the inside of buildings, giving a safer area to fight. Though I don't know how safe you are since you're right by your opponents. Lady Deliberately even has something she's hiding here. Check this out. Antarctica, the drop zone, gets that name because the glaciers will decide to drop the players at any moment. Not helping is fighting other vehicles while slipping on the ice, leading to your doom. This is probably the most heart-racing map in the game, as you get game over just from trying to survive the harsh terrain. Whoever designed this level is a complete asshole. Holland at first seems like a breath of fresh air until you realize it's a small ass square with 10 other vehicles and no good structures to drive around. The only ones here being the windmills, which can be destroyed easily, leaving nothing but empty space for you to get killed in. This is probably the hardest part of the entire game, surviving this mess. What monster thought of this? You will need to use all your skills to survive and just hope you don't get jumped, but yeah, that's hard to do. Hong Kong, the Crunch, the last area of the world tour, is also the biggest, with many turning streets and alleyways, a waterfront, a terminal highway you can use to escape the heat of opponents, and at the center, a giant Chinatown building, which serves as the showdown with all vehicles who enter. Because of its size and no death zone, Hong Kong ends up being one of the easier levels in the game. After beating the final opponents, the final boss arrives. "You killed my son!" he shouts. "I want my little clown boy back!" Dark Tooth arrives in the giant van. He's hard to hit because he hops around and shoots everything at you. But the best way to take him down is to have him follow you and drop landmines. He'll continue to explode from you. Once completing this, he'll turn into his final form. But wait, what's this? Inside the giant head, you see a shriveled figure of an old man. "Hands up, you freak!" the senile fool screams. He literally becomes the head of his vehicle. As creepy as this is, he's actually weaker than his last form, and the strategy remains the same to defeat him. Although this exploit exists, Darktooth is still a tough boss, and it took me a while to beat him and discover this exploit. He does a lot of damage if hit, and is honestly scary to confront him up front. You're brave if you find a way to beat him that way. But once defeating him, you get a character ending, which can be its own section of discussion. The endings of Twisted Metal have been left up for discussion for years. Calypso is one evil bastard, and although he gives the drivers one wish, it's a monkey paw type wish, leading to the driver's doom unless you're smart. You either die, get what you want, but suffer, or beat Calypso. No matter what path a character chooses though, Calypso will always win in some way in the end. For examples, take over the world as Thumper? Well, too bad you already destroyed the world you took over. Want to be the biggest face in the world? Well, you get what you want, alright.
Hold on there.
When Ken first woke up, he thought he'd been dreaming. But then he looked around and realized he was thousands of feet above New York City, and his face felt hot. The driver of Spectre had gotten his wish. Now the entire world knew Ken's face. And to tell you the truth, I rather like seeing his face every day. It's a nice face. I do.
Want to be able to fly? Hey, you can get that too.
Wow! Hey man, this can't be right.
Good thing these first-class tickets are refundable.
Calypso will even give you all the souls of mankind if you ask.
I did just that. Fulfilling my end of the bargain, I, the mighty Calypso, caused the world to become a battleground. All walks of men engaged in fierce combat. Few could call themselves safe as the death toll rose and the population fell dramatically, threatening to wipe out mankind in one horrific war. Within weeks, the Earth was reduced to chaos as the streets began to rise with the bodies of the dead. The souls came pouring in. Mr. Grimm was happy. The world was never the same after Grimm's horrific feast. But no meal can last forever. The human race was obliterated, and within time, Mr. Grimm was hungry again.
Please feed me! I need souls!
See, Calypso's not a bad person after all. One thing that should be noted though is the canonicity, hate that word, of the endings. Each character's endings is their own canon and is described by the Twisted Metal creator, David Jaffe himself. A lot of fans assume Outlaw won the last tournament because of Outlaw's two endings here.
Spiraling into outer space. Now is my chance to save him. I am the winner, and as my prize, I demand that you let me see my brother.
I will be glad to grant your wish, my dear. I will let you see your brother.
No, wait! What I meant to say was...
But it was too late. Her wish had been granted.
Hey, sis, I'm over here.
Oh my god, Buzz, I found you! I can't believe it, I found you!
Guess Calypso tricked you too, huh, sis? Now we're both stuck out here.
I don't think so. I've made some modifications to my patrol car. I planned on Calypso's little trick. These rocket boosters will carry us back. Next year we'll enter Twisted Metal.
But really, this is just Outlaw's canon. It's why so many endings don't follow the events of others. The only canon thing is that the first Twisted Metal happened, and now there's another one. With that being said, some of the endings can be really satisfying to the character's story and not just them falling to their desires, though in Mr. Slam's case, he literally falls to his desires.
I am God! Whoa!
That's exactly what he gets. Some of my favorites include Axel, who was able to achieve his goal by being free of his Axel.
Why have you come back? I thought I'd gotten rid of you.
Father, please, release me.
You were always too slow, too damn stupid, and you still are. Gonna take 10 more years on the wheels to set you right. You need to be taught a lesson.
No, Father, I've learned my lesson.
Let me show you what I've learned. Oh my God. Oh no. Oh my God.
I am a free man, and you are no longer my father.
Axel disappeared into the Kansas fields. To this day, he has yet to be seen.
That last part is always chilling to see, but awesome as well. Mortimer is actually able to defeat Calypso with all the souls that died to his competition.
Any prize you request is yours.
I am not here for a prize, Calypso. It is I who have a gift for you.
A gift? For me? Let me see it. It was a trap. My fate had been sealed.
These are the souls of the people who have died in your contest. The poor men and women who were simply walking the streets of the world when your twisted metal competitors ran them down. They've hired me to take revenge on you.
Within seconds, the souls of the dead had carried me away. Some say they dropped me in the busy streets of New York. Others think I'm still being carried on the night winds.
But he still remains.
I am Calypso!
Then there's Sweet Tooth, who has this unorthodox wish, but it does satisfy him.
Sweet Tooth told me he wanted to live out his greatest fantasy. To become a bug in a tiny little garden out in the country. It would be a life of relaxation and love, a life of peace, a final escape from his madness. The night sky exploded with light. And when the light faded, Sweet Tooth had gotten his wish. For the rest of his days, he enjoyed his new life in the garden, away from all those who would tell him he was crazy. The other insects were not fans of their new neighbor, for he had a tendency to kill them. Oh, but Sweet Tooth was happy, and whenever he got lonely for human companionship, or for human flesh, all he had to do was look up and dream of the day when he would crawl out of the garden and back into the world of man.
And you know what? His wish answers the riddle of his character bio. As a bug, he can see you, he can always be with you, but you can't see him, and you can never really escape Sweet Tooth in that way, unless you step on him, I guess. But he may just have a knife to stab your foot, so who knows? It's hard to call him a genius or insane for this, but on the other side of that is Roadkill, who is the alternate personality or the sane personality of Sweet Tooth. You can even call him sane. When he gets his wish from Calypso, he actually gets what he wants.
Marcus, I always knew you would be the one to figure it out. I will grant your wish, but please, feel free to come back and visit us any time. For the rest of your friends will be here for quite a while.
Doctor, he's awake.
Good God, son, you're alive! Oh, you were in a 25-car pileup on the freeway. It's a wonder you've come back to us at all. The rest are still in comas.
These people, they all look so familiar. I've seen them before, fought them before. But where? I can't remember.
Daddy!
Oh my God! My family! You're here! I'm back! Everything's gonna be all right. I promise.
We don't really know if there was really an other world or if it was a fake illusion created by Calypso, but some have speculated that the world of Twisted Metal 2 is the world of color, or the more fantasy side of Twisted Metal, and the games that are in the more real and gritty like Twisted Metal is the world of gray, or the real world. Those are games like Twisted Metal Black. It's one of those theories that still gets discussed today, even though David Haffey said he didn't think of this when making the endings or making Twisted Metal Black. But he doesn't mind fans coming up with this stuff. Honestly, I would like to build off of this theory and say that maybe Roadkill is the personality from the real world, and when he came to the world of color, he created a second personality, Sweet Tooth. I think there's some great room for discussion of this, but this would involve looking at not only Twisted Metal Black, but also Twisted Metal Head On as well. And those will definitely be looked at on the channel, but I'm going to save those for their own separate video. So we'll check back on those theories when I cover them. The last ending I want to cover is the most shocking one, Grasshopper. I'm just going to let this one play out all the way.
Daddy? It's me, Krista! I'm back!
Krista, I thought you had died. I thought in the car crash that almost killed me. You're alive! Property of the LAPD?
I'm sorry, Father. They rebuilt me after the accident. They knew I could get close enough to you. They want to put a stop to all the violence you caused with your contest. Hold me, Daddy. I'm just a machine now, but I'm scared the explosion will hurt.
Now, as goofy as it is him looking into her and seeing property of the LAPD is, the ending itself is still haunting, and it's one of the rare occasions Calypso completely loses. Now, there was a prequel comic that goes into Calypso's backstory more, and I'm going to talk about that real quick. You see, Calypso was actually a demolition derby driver before he became what he is today. During that time, he wanted to die, but he was so good at it that he would always win. Eventually, he would get married and conceive Krista Sparks. Though you'd think that would bring the man peace, he actually grew tired of his wife and cheated on her, and whether he wanted it or not, she would soon die watching one of his derby competitions by being hit by debris. Depressed from these incidents, Calypso fell into despair, leeching off of motels and bars with his daughter, until one day after leaving one bar, he saw his wife asking him to come to hell with her. He obliges, crashing his car with Krista inside, killing them both. And then these events is what led him to make the deal with Satan, as I discussed earlier. Krista would be revived by the LAPD to get close and kill Calypso, and though she seemed to hate him for his previous actions and Calypso himself having gone mad with his new power, it seemed that they still cared for each other as a family. A tragic demise that happens when you make a deal with the devil, and in a way Calypso monkey-pawed himself in this ending. On a lighter note, the comic presentation adds to Twisted Metal's unique aesthetic, and aged a lot better than the cutscenes of future games in the series. I wouldn't even say aged better because the ones in 3 and 4 look like ass from the beginning, but that's another video for another time. All the endings are very satisfying and reminds me of watching The Twilight Zone, except it's in this horror comedy B-movie style. You can see why it will leave an impact on players for years. Now, you can't discuss Twisted Metal without the multiplayer. Before I go into that, I gotta talk about some of the extra and secrets in the game. Much like Sweet Tooth, Minion is playable by using the cheat code. You can find these cheat codes in the game itself on certain maps. An example here being in New York. By falling to your death, you can see the code. At least they give you something for losing. Minion, though, is overkill. He has a lot of health, and the special obliterates opponents while freezing them, and on top of that, despite his large size, he's one of the fastest characters in the game. There's also some hidden inputs that let you restore health and get an infinite weapon meter, as well as having all weapons at all times and becoming invincible. Having all of this is complete overkill for Minion, but if you're at this point, you're just playing around mostly. I miss when games had cheats like this. Both Minion and Sweet Tooth have no password, so you have to beat the game in one run, which can be hard for Sweet Tooth, but for Minion, it's like stealing candy from a baby. Minion's ending sees him taking Calypso's place and dropping him back to hell.
It's so good to see you again. Surely we can work out a deal?
You stole my powers, Calypso, 11 years ago, stripping me of my birthright. Now it is time to pay the price.
No, this is bad. Please, Minion. It's scary down there.
Let's go, little Calypso, man.
I want to raise my gun.
Time to rot in hell with your little sister.
That's all the secret extras though, as the multiplayer has exclusive extras. Multiplayer, of course, is fun as hell. That was the main draw of these games back then. The chaos is much more intense with a friend. Thanks to Parsec, once again I'm able to play with others online. This application is amazing, and it also allows me to show the multiplayer exclusives. If you enter a code in the level select screen, you'll get 2 of the original levels from the first game, Suburbia and Rooftops, which play way better than the original game. Seriously, the movement is so much better in Twisted Metal 2 than it is in 1. Then there's another code that will give you Suicide Swamp, a level taken from another single track franchise at the time, Jet Moto. And Jet Moto is a rad game, but that's for another video. This level though is also rad. I don't like how you can only access these levels in the multiplayer. I wish you were able to access them in all modes, and that's really my only regret with this content. You can also play co-op through the tournament, which makes it so much easier to deal with since at least one person is not trying to kill you at the same time. As you can see, multiplayer was clearly the focus in Twisted Metal 2, and you're really missing out on a lot of the game if you don't play it. Sorry for all you lonely guys out there, but it's just how it is. Because if you just play the single player, especially if you're new to the game, you're gonna want to blow up a car yourself. Multiplayer, especially the co-op, takes away a lot of that stress. With all this stated, one question remains. How the hell did all of these ideas come together and work? Well, the cool thing about Twisted Metal is that there's so much material to latch onto, and I think Twisted Metal 2 represents this the best out of all the Twisted Metal games. Now, every Twisted Metal has a different feel, which can be good or bad depending on the game, but from 2 and onwards, the games would expand on an aspect from this game. The darker nature of the world and lore, the colorful unorthodox characters, and the cars themselves, many of them becoming mainstays for future games, even if they have different drivers. And the indie comic aesthetic for the presentation was a perfect way to display these messed up stories, and had an upper hand against games at the time using polygonal models for their cutscenes. And don't get me wrong, there were definitely some games with great cutscenes on the PS1, but Twisted Metal was able to set its own identity from the rest of the crowd. Something that the first game tried to do with its endings and cutscenes, but it didn't make the cut in the original. And lastly, for the gameplay, it was also unique, building off of the fundamentals of the first game and perfecting the combat. While fun in single player, I don't think you can really understand the genius of the gameplay unless you play it in multiplayer. Mostly because you're dealing with all these freaking AI attacking you at once. But in multiplayer, you're strategizing with friends or going against them. The game rewards quick thinking, and that's more fun when you're dealing with humans rather than AI. All these aspects together is what built the love for Twisted Metal 2, because you didn't have to be good at the gameplay or understand it to enjoy it. You had the lore and the wacky characters. If two people that loved the game for a different reason met each other, they could understand each other's experience, and that's how you make a classic. And god damn it, through all of its hellish vehicular battles, Twisted Metal 2 is a classic and an innovator, inspiring the creation of multiple vehicular combat games to this day. But Twisted Metal 2 will always remain the king, at least on the PlayStation. Now, before we end the video, there's some things that have been on my mind that I want to address. Like, how stupid can some of these contestants be, letting a man who looks like that give them a wish, as if he has no other motives? And if Calypso really wanted to cause chaos, then why doesn't he just, I don't know, start a war himself? And I know this is a Halloween video, but doesn't this take place during Christmas? Yes, it does. What the hell? What are you doing? So you thought you could get away from my competition unscathed? Well, congratulations, you survived. And just like all the other contestants, you have to see me. What the hell? I never signed up for your hellish game. Oh, but you did. When you turned on Twisted Metal 2 in your PlayStation, you already became a participant. You even criticized my tournament for not meeting your holy standards. And worst of all, you revealed all of my secrets to the world. But that was a video game, not the real thing. Ah, but life is just a game, isn't it? And you did win, so go ahead and tell me your wish. Damn it! Let go of me! Wait! Okay. Your wish is granted. Ah, Calypso! You'll pay for this! Hey, don't blame me. It was your wish. I am Calypso, and I thank you for watching the J Blast Network.